Today is the 20th of March, 2025. On the 18th of March, 2008, my father passed away. Today is the most important day of your life. It was one of the lessons that my father taught me. And it took years for me to realize this. Now, I've shared this in my newsletter with my audience, but I'll share it with you here as well. And if you add right now, and you keep adding it every single day, every single minute, every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year, then you become untouchable, unstoppable. Now, there's a lot of other stories that I can share with you about my father, but I'll leave them for another day. And I'll just leave you with that one wisdom that he taught me over many years, that it's not the years that you create that matter, but it's the moments within those years. That today is the most important day of your life. Welcome to Present Potential. I'm your host, Hassan, and the reason I launched this podcast is to create a ripple effect of optimism that reaches 1 billion people in the next decade. Ambitious? Very. Scary? A little bit. The aim of Present Potential is to empower listeners by sharing stories of individuals who've turned challenges into opportunities, proving that we all have untapped potential. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. If you've tuned in before, thank you for your support, and I hope you find value in these conversations. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Present Potential. My name is Hassan, and I'm your host. Thank you for joining and listening to these episodes on a weekly basis. I hope that you find value in the content. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a personal reflection. This has become like a weekly personal reflection for me. And before we begin, I'd like to make an announcement first. I want to let you know that on the 1st of April, 2025, I'm going to be releasing something that is going to be great. It's called Val, and I'm not going to tell you more because it's going to be a surprise. But what I'll tell you is that I've shared more information with my subscribers on Momentum Letters. I've told them a little bit about this, and they're also testing it. So if you're interested to hear more, join Letters. There's going to be a link on the description for you to click and join, and you'll receive weekly emails from me, which will consist of books that I'm reading, productivity hacks, videos that I find inspiring, and also some interesting scientific facts, charts, and illustrations. More so, you're also going to read my personal reflections, where I share stories and also insights that help me to continue to be the high performer that I am. High performer? If I think so, maybe you don't think I am, but I do. So with that, I want to talk today about my father. Today is the 20th of March, 2025. On the 18th of March, 2008, my father passed away. It's been 17 years, and I was chatting with my family because we remember this day, and anyone who has lost a father or parent or any close family member would also know. We were chatting, and I said that I feel like it was just yesterday. And it's been 17 years. A lot has happened in 17 years, but I still feel like it was yesterday. Now, this episode is really to share with you some stories about my father and also to connect it to high performance, because that's what I love doing. Also because we all have a lot of potential in the present moment. That's where we live. In the moment, right now. We don't live tomorrow. We don't live yesterday or 17 years ago. We live right now. I'm going to tell you about who my father was from my point of view, and also share with you some stories so you can understand the kind of person that he was. So my father was an only child, and that is a little bit rare for people in Yemen, because especially growing up in the 50s and the 50s, yes, that's how old he was. Most families used to have more than one child because the lack of the healthcare system, and a lot of kids used to die young, and they didn't know if everyone will survive, and they needed help in the farms and to do the things that they do. But my father was an only child, and he grew up in a village, in our village, actually. And it's a small village, was very secluded. Even when I used to go visit, and this was in the early 2000s, I mean, electricity was there, but it's not as constant. Definitely, water was also not easily accessible. Although I must say that we've been blessed and grateful to have water in our village. And my father was one of the people who actually brought water to our village. But this is me reflecting about him as a person, because he grew up as an only child with almost having nothing, really nothing. And he decided that he wanted to make something for himself and his family. And that's exactly what he did, because when he passed, he left not just the things that he's accumulated, but also a wealth of knowledge and wisdom that he bestowed upon myself and my brothers and sisters and everyone that he came across, and the families and the people. And he had a way with people, the way that he used to describe situations and also navigate challenges and see things from his point of view, which sometimes is a stubborn way to see the world. But stubbornness is not always bad. Is it stubborn that the Wright brothers decided that they're going to create an airplane and fly when everyone was saying it's impossible? Or was it stubborn from Steve Jobs to say that he's going to create a personal computer that's going to be accessible by the masses and everyone will have their own personal computer to do the things that they want? And I think my father was the same. Now I'm comparing him to the greats because in my eyes, I think he was one of the greats, and he did so much for us as a family and also for the people around him. I remember when I have a couple of stories that I wanted to share with you. So when my father was growing up, let's say this is after he's graduated, no, before he graduated, and he used to go visit his father and stepmother. And the story was, or what I heard, and I could be completely mistaken if my family are listening to this, but that he used to always be told that he's not going to amount to anything, especially from like his stepmother's side and relatives from there, saying that he doesn't know how to do anything and he's lacking, and that's not going to be the way that the world works for him. And he used that as fuel to actually build something significant and create a world that he wanted for himself. Now, I believe, and this is my own perception, is that he took those negative comments and limiting beliefs, really, and used them as a fuel to become even greater than they ever expected. And when he used to go visit them, he used to take them to the grocery shop and just tell them, buy anything that you want. No restrictions. That was the kind of person that he was. He never used to hold grudges. Thinking out loud now, is that he felt that it was so important to prove to himself that he is better than what they think he is. So in that situation, he just decided to show them the kind of person that he is and inspire them to be the better versions of themselves. Now, one of the stories that I wanted to share with you today is about one of the, maybe I wouldn't say arguments, but like disagreements that we had. It wasn't a disagreement. I think it was funny. In 2007 or 2006, when we were in London, he came to visit. And my father studied in Oxford as one of the universities that he went to. He completed the diploma there. And whenever he used to come to the UK, and that was the time that I was studying there, he used to love to go to Oxford. He felt that it was rich in history and also academia, and he just loved that environment. So we drove there. I rented a car and we were driving there, and he kind of knew the city because he lived there. Now, I didn't know the city at all, and this was in the early 2000s. So there's not a lot of GPSs on our phones by that metric. And I remember we were driving down the road and he was sitting next to me and he told me, I think it's the second right and you turn and you go into the university grounds or the parking or something. And I told him, okay, let's see. And then we drove and I took that right, and it wasn't, it was somewhere else. And then we went back and we drove on the same road. And I told him, you know what? I know exactly where we're going. I have a great sense of direction. And he was looking at me and he said, yeah, great sense of direction. Okay, I'll trust you. Let's see where this goes. So I was driving and I thought that it's going to be the third right. So I took the right and it took me to a different place, completely out of where we were. We were actually in the motorway again. Motorway is a highway in the UK. And eventually turned around, we came back and we drove down the same road. Now I was glancing to my right, actually to my left, because I wanted to see what his reaction was. And he was just perfectly quiet. So we will go back to the same road, and mistakenly, I took the same exit again, and we went back to the motorway. And I knew that this was happening as soon as I made that mistake. And I wanted to curse my bad luck. I bit my tongue and I acted as if everything was perfectly fine. And while we were doing the same round 3 or 4 times, I look at my dad and he's looking at me and he has this cheeky smile and he tells me, great sense of direction, right? And that was it. Like, he didn't say anything else. I think he wanted to prove that trusting oneself in any circumstance becomes more important than anything else that you do. And that him giving me the ability to decide to go my own way and do the things that I believe are correct sometimes might not be the best thing, but we're going to learn on the way. And he didn't really say anything else. He was just okay with the situation. Eventually we reached where we wanted to reach, but I carry that with me throughout my life because I was wondering if it was me, I was going to get upset with my son who didn't listen to what I was saying 3-4 times and doing the same mistake over and over again. But he was very patient. He was probably trying to teach me a valuable lesson there. And that's what I wanted to share with you today, a valuable lesson. Now, when I started this podcast, I wanted to end with a ritual. And the ritual was to ask the guests that come to share their motto at the end, some words that they live by that help them to overcome the challenges. And I almost always end the podcast with my own motto, which is to remember that today is the most important day of your life. Today is the most important day of your life. It was one of the lessons that my father taught me. And it took years for me to realize this. Now, I've shared this in my newsletter with my audience, but I'll share it with you here as well. In my last year of university, in my last year of high school, rather, that's how many years it took me to learn this lesson. In my last year of high school, I was due to graduate with either an academic diploma, which basically means you complete a research project and you present it to the school and audience, or a practical diploma, which means that you don't do that research project or different courses and you still graduate with less credits, let's say. Either way, you do graduate. And at that point, I decided to go for an academic diploma. So I was going to do a research project. So I started the research project and I didn't really enjoy doing it and I didn't want to do it. And spoke to my mother and she told me, you can do it, you cannot do it, you're going to graduate, but you will decide what is important for you. So that's a different story. I've talked about my mother at some other point. But I remember my father telling me something and he said, no matter what you do, this is the most important year of your life because once you complete the final year of high school, that will help you to go into a good university, get a good job, and have a good and successful and beautiful life. So I was like, okay, I hear the messages that you're telling me, so I'll stick to it and I'll make sure that I'll do it to the best of my ability so that I can graduate and get into a good university, get a good job. I did eventually graduate with an academic diploma and I did deliver a research project, which was interesting. And then I went to university in London. Now, I was one of the lucky ones because growing up in Yemen and studying doesn't really give you the opportunity to apply or study abroad. And my father ensured that myself, my brothers and sisters had that opportunity because he believed that education was such a vital component of having a successful and beautiful life. He didn't have that growing up, but as he went into high school and university, he realized the importance of being aware of what is happening in the world, having knowledge is power. So I went to study in London. And my first year, my dad told me, this is your first year in university. And this is the most important year because once you do this, then the second and third year are also going to be very important for you. And then you're going to graduate and get a job. And I said, okay, I think I've heard this before. Didn't you say it last year? I said, no problem. I completely understand. First year is foundation. So let's make a very strong foundation so that the second and third and fourth year are easy. Now, in the second and third year, he told me the exact same thing. This is the most important year of your life. Make sure that you do well because this will help you to graduate with high degrees and you're going to attract the employers who want to hire someone for their company. So I said, and then in my final year, now this was in 2008, my father made sure to explain to me that this was the most important year of my life because once I graduate with the credits and the degree that will make me stand out in front of the competition, I'll be able to land a job with one of the top employers and live a happy and successful and blessed life. Now, unfortunately, my father died on March 18th, 2008. That's 4 days after my birthday, by the way. So that period was extremely difficult for myself and my family. But that also means that he didn't see me graduate. And it was such a challenging period for me because it interrupted, interesting choice of words, but my father wanted me to focus my energy completely on education. So that period of going back to Yemen, understanding that my father is passed and now it's on us, myself, my brothers and my sisters to do the things that we have to do was such an important lesson for me because I needed a distraction and my distraction was education. And when I was learning and studying and preparing for my final exams of my final year, the most important year of my life, it was very crucial for me to dedicate everything that I did to make sure that I graduate. And I did well in that year, despite the situation right before my exams, losing my father, backbone, my pillar, my rock, the one who was there always for us to support us, the one who traveled with us everywhere to make sure that everything is fine. I even had to go out of the UK to get a visa from somewhere. And he came to be there with me, to support me, regardless of what. That was who he was. But I still think about why did he keep saying this year is the most important year of your life? I was starting to think maybe this guy lost it at some point because, I mean, he said it every single year. This is the most important year of life. I mean, when is the most important year of your life? I mean, if this was the most important, why? What about last year? And what about the next year? I had that thought in mind for a couple of years. And many years later, I was watching series. I was actually watching Grey's Anatomy with my wife. Please don't judge me, but sometimes husbands and partners do what other partners and wives want them to do. But anyways, I was watching one of the characters and he used to say that today is a beautiful day to save lives. Something along those lines. I mean, I'm not trying to quote or to share that specific situation, but rather just the idea that today is a beautiful day, that today is a beautiful day, that today is important. And then it hit me. What my father was teaching me as a valuable lesson throughout all of these years was that it's not this year that is the most important year of your life. It's not that this month or this week, or it's not even this day is the most important day of your life. Right now is the most important moment in our lives. And that's the lesson that he was sharing with me. That's what I've learned throughout those years of him repeating the same thing over and over again. The old man didn't lose it. It just took a while for that lesson to land in this mind of mine. So that's what I take with me everywhere I go and everything that I do, that today is the most important day of my life. Because it's true. If I were to dedicate all my energy and everything that I have to be the best version of myself at this moment, right now, then I have nothing to worry about, nothing to fear, nothing to risk, because I've given it all right now. And if you add right now and you keep adding it every single day, every single minute, every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year, then you become untouchable, unstoppable, a true high performer, someone who stands out from the crowd, someone who's really crafted in everything that they do. And you stand up to do the things that might seem hard and give it your all. That's the lesson that he wanted to share. And that I'm sharing with you as well. And that's why I have this motto within my podcast, that today is the most important day of your life. That's who my father was. He was, in my view, a wise man who used all the challenges that came his way to create opportunities and prove to others that it's also possible to do, that nothing is impossible, that you can rise from nothing and create something, that if someone goes against you to try to challenge you, to hurt you, to stop you, that you are stronger than them, that you can be better than them, that you can be the person that you want them to be, because the power is truly from within. No one will be able to give us the things that we lack internally. And this is such a profound feeling that I have just by thinking that today is the most important day of my life, even recording this podcast. And I'll share with you something as well. I recorded an episode right before this one, and I didn't like it. I listened to 10 minutes of it, and I thought that this was mediocre. And if I was rising to make the best of everything that I'm doing, and that if today is the most important day of my life, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, I wouldn't want to put that out to the world. And that's why I decided to record another episode and just to speak completely from my heart, because this is what this podcast is about. It's about that authenticity. It's that pure feeling, that emotion that we bring into the present potential. That's exactly it. And I was wondering whether I wanted to talk about my father or not, but I'm glad that I did. And there's so much more that I can share with you about the lessons and the experiences that I've had with him in my limited time and our limited journey together. But there was just so many things. One other story I'll share with you. When I was 8 or 9 or around that age, I was very forgetful. I wouldn't say forgetful. I was careless. I would say careless. I would define myself as careless, that I wasn't really listening or paying attention to anything that's around me. Every year in school, we used to get a professional photographer that comes and takes our picture, and then they put it into this school yearbook, and you see it at the end of the year, and you pay the photographer, I think it was $40 or such. Now, this was in the 90s, so there were no smartphones, no cameras. There were actually no phones even. By that point, it was just us with no phones. So I remember that my father gave me $40, $50 or some amount. And he's like, here, this is the money for your pictures for you and your sister. You can go and you can pay the school. Now, I don't know what happened from when he told me until I came home, but somehow I lost that money. Must have dropped it somewhere, didn't put it somewhere. I have no idea. And when I told him that I've lost it, I thought that he would lose it, but he didn't lose it. He told me that maybe you're not really paying attention to where the money is and that it's not important for you. And I told him it was really important for me. And he said, I'll make it important for you. Your tuitions are up, so I'm not going to go and pay the school. Rather, I'm going to give you this envelope, which had much more than $40 in it. And he told me, you're going to go and pay the school. And I remember that situation because we were in his bedroom and he was giving me this envelope. And my mother was there and she was telling him, you're crazy to trust him with that much money. I mean, the kid lost $40. What is he going to do with this? And my father said, I trust him. He's going to find a way to remember that he's going to go and pay his tuition on his own. Now, to say that I slept soundly that night, maybe I'd be exaggerating a little bit, but I don't know. I felt a sense of purpose and I felt really inspired and determined to prove my father right, that he can trust me, that it is important, that it was just a lack of judgment or a little bit of carelessness that I lost $40. So I wrote on my hand, remember, and I didn't want to put money or anything because I don't want anyone to see. So I just wrote, remember, and I made lines and I And I even remembered tying something around my hand so I can remember money, to keep it in my mind so I don't drop it. And I make sure that I pay my tuitions. Otherwise, I have no idea what's going to happen. Woke up, went to school the next day, and I did pay the tuitions. And I went home and I told my dad, and he's like, I knew that you would. And there's such a valuable lesson there, because instead of him saying, okay, I'll trust you with less so I can test you, he actually said, I'll trust you with more because I trust you. And that's true leadership. That's true empowerment in anything that we do, whether it's at home, whether it's in the office, with our colleagues, with our friends. If you're a leader, if you're a team leader and you want to inspire your team, that's the level of trust that really drives them to do the great things that they are capable of doing. And I lived that with him in that experience and many others, of where he proved that I am more capable than I am. I am more capable than I am. And that I can do the things that might seem hard and impossible. And by doing them, I can prove to myself that I can do even more. And I wouldn't have trusted myself if he didn't trust me to that extent. Now, I'm sharing this with you because it's a reminder for me, and it's a reflection to be grateful for that experience and that journey that I went through, and to share this knowledge and experiences that I've lived and saw and witnessed. And I speak to my brothers about stories of him and what he did and how he did it, and the way that he used to speak and the people that he engaged with, and how he used to turn like challenges into opportunities and really finding the silver lining in any dark cloud. And they all share the same type of wisdom and the same type of approaches that he used to bestow upon us, all of us, all of us. He was a great man. He was a great man. And he expected so much of himself and others. And I think that transpired within me as well, because I see myself as someone who is capable of doing more and more. And I want to do more. And there's there's such an important switch that I keep reflecting that happened, I don't know when, in the past few months, where it's more about serving others. It's more about that. And the reason I wanted to share stories about my father was really to inspire you, the listener, to inspire you to know that you have that trust within you. You trust yourself more than anyone. Regardless of what you believe, you have it. You have the potential to do anything within your grasp. The lie is that we can do anything all the time. That's not true. We can do anything one thing at a time. One thing at a time, we can do anything. Nothing is holding us back. If we have the power to believe, the people around us to support us, and the tools to get us there, then we're unstoppable. But it all starts with the power of belief within ourselves. If we don't trust ourselves, then how can others trust us too? If we don't love ourselves, then how can others love us? It's funny how this discussion about my father has turned me into this kind of inspiring phrases that I want to share with everyone, because it's so true and it's so important. We live in a world where people say that it's impossible to do things and that you can't do this or you can't do that. Says who? You can't. Maybe they can't. Maybe they think that they don't have the ability or the capability or the resources that they can create whatever that they want to create. Now, I'm not naive. I know that there are hardships in the world and people might be born to different opportunities and others might not be. But what I'm saying is that we all have that power within us to decide and to choose to do the things that really inspire us and others to create the world that we want. It doesn't start with you. It starts with me. It starts from within. And that's the message that I keep repeating to myself and also to my kids, that we have the power to decide how we live our life. And the stories that I share with them about my father as well, I hope that they bring some sort of wisdom that these types of people actually lived amongst us, and that there's others that live amongst us that prove to us that the reality that we're living in is negotiable. Anything that you want to do is possible. It's not going to be easy. I'm not saying that everything that we do is possible and it's just going to be a journey of tranquility. It's not easy. But is anything worth doing easy? And I've experienced this, building this business from the ground up, from nothing, from choosing a name, a logo, the accounting system, the accountants, the processes, the tools, the colors, the palettes, the people that I'm working with, my niche, the product, the promotion, the videos, everything that I've created has that one aspect that today is the most important day of my life. Right now, right this moment is the most important time that I am living. And what I do right now is going to be so profound. So if I'm going to do everything to the best of my abilities right now, once I compound all of that together, then there's a bigger picture that's going to be more amazing. Now, there's a lot of other stories that I can share with you about my father, but I'll leave them for another day. And I'll just leave you with that one wisdom that he taught me over many years, that it's not the years that you create that matter, but it's the moments within those years, that today is the most important day of your life. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, this is Hassan, and today is the most important day of your life. Thank you for watching and listening to Present Potential. If you found value in this episode, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more. Join the conversation in the comments and let us know your biggest takeaway. If you'd like to listen to other inspiring stories, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Make sure to also follow us on Instagram under Present Potential Podcast, where you get to see behind the scenes and engage with us.